We're heading up to where the state school used to be. There's a very good photo of all the kids outside the schoolhouse raising a flag on Jubilee Day. I'm not sure what that is, obviously Jubilee of something. But in that photo there's a detail around the flagpole which is really interesting to capture. Here's the photo now. And this is the feature that's on that photo. The round edging of rocks going around there is the one where the flagpole was right in the middle. And just here and over there are the eyelets where the flagpole was supported by guy wires. Really amazing. So that young fella was standing somewhere around here as he raised the flag. Considering the fence line round about along here, is it possible that tree is the tree in the photo? Because the school was just in here. I once had a photograph that showed this area much better, and in that photograph it showed this water fountain, and this is what it looks like today. And this is that water fountain. So the school was just in there. The rest of this is missing. On the other side of the school are these brick remains. I'm not really sure what was there, but there's a concrete pad just here, and it looks like it was a toilet. Not looks like it was a toilet. And then there's a big hole there and a septic or breather pipe there. More plumbing fixtures just in the ground there. It's a bit hard to work out what was here. It's definitely another building. In the photo of the flag raising ceremony, you can see a building in the back that I think was just here. And this is an old toilet. And there is the septic tank. And then down there is the drain that goes out there. And this makes a bit of sense now. There must be a leach drain or something under here. There's a breather for it. Now, of course, if there's one toilet, there has to be two toilets. Because back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, there were boys and girls. And here we have another toilet area. There's a breather, whether it's still attached to the ground, I don't know. Another large septic tank. You would see the baffles, the inlet there, and then the toilets are here. It's possible this was the boys' toilet, and the reason I say that is this looks like the shape of a urinal that would have been there. And it's interesting to see the earthenware pipes and how they're joined together with cement. And a really good example here. And that goes into the tank. And around this area I would have thought would be the playground. There were possibly swings here at the time, but they're gone. But there is one piece that looks very convincingly like a cricket pitch. Doesn't look like it's a full 22 yards. And there's where you put your wickets. Well, this piece of semicircular material is definitely a grinding wheel. And here is a fence line of someone's property. And their house. And next door's house. Shows you why they're worried about tyres being dumped in the bush. These have probably been sitting here for 70 or 80 years and they're still sitting here. Useful way of getting rid of your beer bottles. Just make a garden bed with them. This is a really good example of what the bunny rabbits have done by eating underneath the concrete and collapsing it all. Now, I haven't seen rabbits out here for a few years, mainly because of calicivirus. So I don't know how active this is. I doubt it's active at all because there's no recent tracks going in there. Not of rabbits anyway. Every now and again I stop and double check where I am. I've downloaded an old town map from the state archives and I'm past the school site. I think I'm on Clarkson Street. And approaching bore number 5, I believe. The reason I believe is a bore is I can hear a motor running, and a lot of the old sites are being used by the mining companies to get their water from. But while I was here, found this amazing thing. So it's a kid's toy. Simple tin can with some wire through it and you can push it along. That's pretty incredible. Just walking up to a bit of a dam. I doubt whether this is one of the older dams, it's been for a while. And this is how the bore site is currently being used. Dinosaur powered, reliable. Find these in the bush fairly commonly. If you know what they are, you know what they are. What they are the frames from a wooden camp stretcher that held the legs up. This stuff is all around the place. It was a very common building material in those days. Highly frowned upon now. So some years as kids we camped up here next to a U-shaped foundation. Never been able to really find it since and lost all photos, but this is interesting because once again we got a flower bed constructed out of used beer bottles, but also another one out of cyanide tin lids, and a made footpath up to the front door. It's possible this is one house that wasn't removed. Fair bit of wood left around. All the floorboards here anyway. Perhaps it's this house from a photo taken in 1969. But it's a very good demonstration because there's the concrete that goes around the edge to do the veranda, and there's where the chimney was, so that would have been the kitchen here. Chimneys are always made out of brick for fire protection. Love finding these bits and pieces. That's a gate hinge. It's just coming up to a more industrial part of the town. Here's a massive concrete roller. And a lot of plaster left behind on this particular block. But just over here is something that was very important to the community. The reason that this was important to the community is because this is the powerhouse. Generators would have been here along with the diesel motors. That's typically where a flywheel would spin around. Got another footing there for a motor and a flywheel. And again, the same thing here. All in this area where there's raised concrete and the sheds on top of that. And we have this ducting along the floor, which is where cables like for fuel and electricity would have been passed through. And on this side here is the cooling plant. So there would have been pipes and stuff, and the water would have been air cooled through here. This is one fairly big concrete pad. This concrete looks very similar to the ones over there. There was definitely something mounted here at one point. Whether this was a workshop area, I don't know. Definitely a separate room here, and possibly an angled doorway in. Window frame cut into the corrugated iron. And here's something else that was very important to the community. So in this area there would have been a really nice smell and a really noisy generator. That's all crumbled in now. But this was the bakery. It's another decent sized building here. Internal part is where the rooms used to be, and the external parts of the verandas. And it looks like this is an entryway with a room off to the left and a room off to the right. And quite a large footpath coming in, or driveway. Well, that's definitely a cellar there. And this is the footpath, and it can I don't know whether it continues all the way down, but on the main street, this one on my left, there were shops up there, and they're the ones that had the footpath out the front. I wonder what was here. You often see buildings with this circle of either stones or corrugated iron. A tank would have been put in that area there. Wow, this is interesting. Don't believe I've seen this before. Don't believe I've paid attention to this before. Some sort of tank or cellar. As with all these old ghost towns, every time you come here you see something different, and to be able to enjoy it and get the full value, you need to get out and walk around. Here's another building, and once again it looks like it might have been a brick building. All the bricks have been removed, but it's concrete foundation. And that looks like some sort of waterways going to drain water out, maybe into this pit here. The Ballet Theatre was opened in October 1937 with big fanfare. The State Lieutenant Governor Sir James Mitchell attended, along with some members of both sides of Parliament. So it was a pretty big deal. Unfortunately, the place burnt to the ground within a couple of months, believed to have been caused by a short circuit. A new theatre was built outside shortly afterwards. It was nowhere near the same class as the original building. When it was rebuilt, it had an outside screen, and either side of the screen were two large pillars. And here is one of them. And then angled off each side was a concrete wall, or a small wall, and then another pillar. So they're on an angle, and that's all that's left. Here is an amazing photo showing a man with his baby in a pram. Behind him is the Big Bell Hotel, and to the right is the Palais Theatre. This video has been one of the hardest I have had to edit. I have tried to interweave some of the historical photos in with the contemporary images I took while we were out there. This has taken enormous amounts of time for research, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I've also done something that I don't particularly like to do. I've taken one image and modified it slightly and then added some colour, but it shows a magnificent view of Big Bell from the water tower.